Welcome everybody to the game today, and well, I just saw this game and what a game this was. It's from the third round of the Sinkfield Cup in 2015, but not a game that I was aware of until I came across it, and it's an incredible game where Hikaru Nakamura plays 5 brilliant moves against Wesley So, Mr. Super Solid himself. What a performance this is by Hikaru. So we're going to look at the game from the black side, which is Hikaru. And in the game, they played some opening prep pretty deep. So we had d4, knight f6, c4 by Wesley, g6, knight c3, bishop g7, e4, d6, knight f3, castles, bishop e2, e5, castles by Wesley, knight c6, d5, knight e7, knight e1, knight d7, f3, f5, bishop to e3, f4, bishop to f2, g5, knight to d3, and we get knight to g6. We get c5 by Wesley, pushing the pawn, trying to open up this file. We get knight f6 by Hikaru. We get rook c1. Again, trying to get this file open with the ID, get the queen up, and we've got super strong attack down this line. Then we get rook to f7 by Hikaru. As you can see, this is still in book. This is obviously lines that they looked at. And we get king h1 here by Wesley, which is a classic waiting type move by Wesley. And Hikaru says, well, you might be waiting, but I'm not waiting. I'm going all out attack. So Hikaru goes h5. We get c takes d6. And c takes d6. We get knight to b5. And then a6, which is a mistake according to the engines. At this depth anyway, Hikaru no doubt has access to a lot more deeper prep than this, but he jumps back to knight a3 by Wesley. Then we get b5 by Hikaru. We get rook to c6, g4, knight c2, queen to f8, making sure this pawn stays protected. And we get rook c1. We get bishop to d7 and rook to c7 as well. We get bishop h6. We get bishop e1 by Wesley. We get h4, and we're coming to the point of absolute fireworks. We're nearly there. We get f takes g4. Hikaru pushes on f3. We get g takes f3, and here we get knight to e4. So knight to e4 with a really nice idea that if you take the knight, well, that enables Hikaru to play rook f1. If you play rook f1, you can't take with the bishop because it's just checkmate. So you can't really take the knight. So what do you do? Well, after taking the knight, here we get rook to d1, which is a blunder by Wesley. Why is it a blunder? Because it enables another brilliant move by Hikaru. Rook takes f3. And again, the idea being that you can't take with the bishop, because if you take with the bishop, the queen takes with check. You can't block with the queen because you'd hang the rook. And so you've got to play king to g1. And after king to g1 and bishop check on e3, this king is going to be mated one way or another pretty soon. So after rook to f3, brilliant move, we get rook takes the bishop that's hanging down here. Wesley's like, okay, I'm just going to ignore it and I'm going to take this hanging bishop. So amazing stuff by Hikaru, hanging not only a rook but also his bishop. So what does Hikaru do here? What would you do? Well, Hikaru goes rook to f1, brilliant move. Unbelievable stuff. And we saw you can't take with the bishop because it very simply leads into that checkmate that we looked at earlier. So Wesley does the only move he can do, which is moves king to g2. What would you do now if you're Hikaru? Well, would you believe it? It's another brilliant move, and it's bishop to e3. Brilliant move. The idea, of course, lining up the rook and bishop, checking. So what do you do here? Again, if you decided to take here, after pushing with the pawn to h3 check, the king can only move here, and that would allow check by Hikaru, and then this really nice checkmate by the knight. So unbelievable traps that are being set here by Hikaru. So in this position, what does Wesley do? Wesley goes bishop to g3. So now this is opening up the rook to a double attack, which means that Hikaru would not be able to capture back, despite the fact that the king is also there. So what does he do here? Well, would you believe it's another brilliant move? He plays pawn takes on g3. Brilliant move. So you're hanging the rook here. Hikaru is now down a full rook. He's done a full rook. So what's the ID? What's his ID here? Can you find the move that Hikaru plays here? What's the plan? Well, he plays knight to g4 check. After knight to g4 check, we get king to h3. Of course, can't take this pawn because it's protected by the knight. Then we get queen to h6. We get g5 by Wesley. And then we get knight to g5 check, allowing the king to go here to g4. So can you find the next move? And the next move is, you guessed it, another brilliant move. It is knight to f3. Brilliant move, sacking another knight. What's the idea? What's the point? Well, the point is simply you can't take, because if you take, Hikaru gets a beautiful checkmate. So what can you do here? Well, you play knight to f2, stopping this mating position, because if you had also taken with the rook, you would get the exact same issue. So knight f2, only moved by Wesley, but this of course is hanging. But what does Hikaru play here? Well, Hikaru plays queen to h4 check, and then we get king to f5, the only move. And now it's time to bring in this rook. We get rook to f8 check, king to g6, rook to f6, sacking the rook, would you believe? And after Wesley takes the rook, you get this beautiful move by Hikaru of knight to e4, double check, meaning that Wesley can only go to g6. He can go here as well, but g6, it doesn't matter. The game is over, and Hikaru finish off with a wonderful checkmate.